Hi, friends. Welcome again to Beyond the Clouds, Edge-to-Edge Transformation. This is the first time I'm talking to someone who currently has been in India for several years. So we get a glimpse of what the world looks like, how technology is moving, how life is changing in India as well as in the United States. Ram, I got to know you when you're in the US, leading startup companies. Please tell me a little bit about your journey from the very beginning to where you are today.
Hi, Shankar. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. My journey starts, obviously, I was born in Bangalore when it was a small town back in the 60s. It was very small but very pretty, very beautiful. It was the retirees' paradise. People used to come and retire in Bangalore because of the weather. So that's where I started my life. And I went to school here, and then I did my undergrad at NITK Surathkal on the west coast of India in electronics and communications. Then I moved to the US to do my grad school. On the East Coast, I went to Stony Brook University and I did my master's in computer engineering. And I started my career in semiconductors, chip design. So in fact, I was one of the design engineers starting in the 80s. And then from there, I moved on to Apollo Computer in Boston, where we started building ASICs at that time, very early. And Apollo Computer was one of the leading workstation company competing against Sun Microsystem on the West Coast. We were on the East Coast in Massachusetts. So then from there, I wanted to go into software. So that's how I got into electronic design automation, where I met you, EDA tools. So I started at a company called Viewlogic Systems. It's a startup again. But I wasn't in the founding team, but early stage of the company. We were building, obviously, a whole schematic capture simulation platform when Synopsys was slowly entering the market. Moved to the West Coast to be in the heart of Silicon Valley, and in the early 90s, and with Viewlogic. And then I started my first startup in 95 called TriQuest. We were building a synthesis product. Finally, it was part of Mentor Graphics. It was in Mentor Graphics for a long time. So that was my first foray into startup. After we sold that company, I actually went to Cadence. I was managing verification products in Cadence in San Jose, and obviously that's when Dr. Prabhu Goyal got me into Tharas Systems. He said, "Hey, I need some help here." He was one of he was doing he was funded, and he was the chairman CEO of a company called Tharas Systems, which massively parallel architecture to speed up simulation. Tharas, of course, finally got sold to Eve, and then it's now many other players are in Synopsys again. It's like Synopsys is the mothership. Synopsys and Cadence are the two motherships of EDA, the big ones where companies keep going and coming out. And then again, I had another startup which we sold. I ended up selling it to Intel in 2009. Then again, another one, Synopsys, in 2010. So then at that point, I've been in the EDA for considerable time, almost 20 plus years. I was looking to make an impact for the common man, and I was not finding it in the EDA where I was working on. And because I was primarily, developing, of course, in a long-winded way, we are impacting the common man through helping build tools for the chips to design, and chips goes into systems, and systems helps people, and so on. So I know that, but I wanted to be close to where it happens. So I kept thinking what I should do, and serendipity brought me to India. I came to India to take care of my mother and father. So after one of the exits, I wanted to spend some time here. And as I was here, what happened is I met some alumni event, and I did the seed investment in a startup called TaxiForSure. That was a taxi aggregation company, and I never thought it's going to go that big, and it just took off, and we were at the right time, and then the Ola started, and then Uber came to India. Before you know it, in 2015, I had a great exit with TaxiForSure. We sold it to Ola for $200 million. That was a good exit for us, good outcome for investors and founders and employees. So I was okay. Now I had some funds sitting in India. I was okay. I said, this is the money that I generated in India. I want to give it back to India, and I wanted to see what I should do. And my son happens to be in India. He was, after graduating from school in the U.S. in California, he wanted to have an India experience. He came to India. So we came up with the idea of DriveU. That's what I've been involved in the last 8 years now. Okay. In fact, we just finished our 8th birthday. And I started the company with my son. That was also a fun thing to do. And I started in my hometown, Bangalore, another fun thing to do. The thing that we were trying to do was, I saw a problem that was not being addressed using technology at DriveU. And the second thing was, I wanted to give back to the country which has given me so much. So I thought, okay, what can I do? So what we did was, we looked at driver aggregation. So there are a lot of mom and pop businesses with drivers. They'll provide you drivers on a daily basis or something like that. And we fashioned it along the lines of Uber, Lyft, or Ola, where we said it's an on-demand drivers. And we provided, it's the same thing. We have an app-based service, in Android and iOS, and driver partners will be able to pick up the business. And the way we did a lot of it was primarily to ensure that customers get a great experience and drivers make good money, right? That was my biggest thing I wanted to do. And we were in the middle trying to make that happen. And I mean, there are a lot of things we have done, right? I believe I'm very proud of the company that we have built. For example, I looked at Ola and Uber. They didn't pay the drivers every day. In India, blue collar workers live, from paycheck to paycheck, day to day. So what we did was, we built a technology stack so that any trip that ends before midnight the prior day, the driver has their money in their wallet, in their account by next day by lunchtime. So even if you pay online, they can be assured of cash in their bank account the next day. And that really took off. Even to this day, after 8 years, we have never missed one day of payment to our drivers. We do it religiously, whatever it takes. We make sure that the drivers get their money. Secondly, it was very transparent. We made it transparent. Drivers know how much we are earning from the customer. And we came with the 80-20 rule. We keep 20%, driver keeps 80%. And driver knows, actually, even today, Uber drivers don't even know how much you are paying to Uber. They just have, sometimes the Uber drivers ask me, how much are you paying them? And they'll say, oh my God, I'm only getting $15. You're paying $35, that kind of thing. So we have a very transparent, because we wanted to make sure the drivers understand, if I collect 500 rupees, I'm giving you 400, I'm keeping 100, keep my lights on. That's how we started. So we started this in 2015, but when I first started this, Shankar, I've been through many, many startups, and everybody told me, a lot of VCs told me, either they said, this is a dumb idea, because nobody's going to own cars in India. Everybody's going to go to cabs. Okay, I said, okay, that's one thing. But what I told them was, they didn't get it. I said, listen, buying a car, it is something that people do, as this is, because this is somehow they feel good about themselves, buy a car, as opposed to going from a two-wheeler. They didn't get the sentiments. And I think we were right. The cars continue to grow, and we have a lot of drivers, and we have a lot of customers. And like you said, there is gridlock in traffic in all the major cities in India, and people are tired of driving by themselves. That's one thing that we did. Second thing, my investors told me, a lot of smart VCs, I assume, they said, you should first grab the entire market. Why are you charging 400 or 500 rupees? Charge them 200 rupees and grab the entire market. I said, it's not sustainable. I said, if I charge 200 rupees to the customer, the driver needs to be paid 400, so I end up losing 200 from my pocket. It's not sustainable for me. I can't do this. They thought, okay, I'm just being an old-fashioned guy, wanted to make money. I said, no, I want to grow slow. Slow and steady wins the race. And that's what we did. We doubled every year, okay, from day one. I had investors coming and telling me, we invest in companies which will grow 4, 5x or 10x in a year. I said, that's not me. I said, I cannot grow. I'll double every year. And that's what we had done. We grew every year. We doubled our numbers, gradually, until, of course, the COVID hit. COVID went back to zero. Now we are double the pre-COVID numbers, after the COVID was over. So, and we are profitable, EBITDA positive, cash flow positive, and we continue to grow. And in this market space, people raise tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, even in India, right? We have barely raised $6 million in this company, and we are already profitable and still growing, and building more products and so on. So that was my experience. And the thing that I really enjoy, Shankar, when many drivers come to me and sometimes they even I said, don't touch my feet, it's okay. They say, sir, because of you, because of DriveU, we were able to save money and I was able to build a small house to my parents. Or another driver has come and tell me, sir, because of the money I earned from DriveU, I can put my daughter in an English medium school. These are tangible results. In the sense, it's something that I feel good about, right? So this gives me happiness. And by the way, the money that I make in India for DriveU is nothing compared to what I used to make in the US. Okay, I make probably 1/5 to 1/8 of the money I used to make in Silicon Valley, but I'm more happier than anything in my life. This is the most rewarding startup experience for me.
It is amazing to hear your journey, Ram, and it reminds me of the last 8 years. I was in India for 5 years. I insisted on not getting paid and just doing things that came naturally to me, particularly education. Surathkal is close to where I was born. I was born in Kundapura, Udupi area. So I spent several months until my mother passed away in that area. But again, education and last mile of education, helping people find jobs. That has been the most amazing part of my career as well. Speaking of which, technology is moving at a breakneck speed. You've seen technology move in the Bay Area, in the US, as well as in India, but the speeds are different and in different areas. How has the change in technology affected people in India in the last 5 to 10 years? Because in some cases, they're leapfrogging, like fintech or in cell phones. How has it affected people of all ages and of economic strata? Is it reducing or increasing the digital divide?
It's amazing. What is happening in India is something that a lot of people miss outside India. The fintech revolution is the basis, the high-speed internet and the fintech revolution. When we came to DriveU, I'll give you an example. When we started DriveU, many of our drivers, a lot of them didn't have a smartphone. We actually, when we recruited drivers, we bought the smartphones and gave it to them. Okay, our drivers. Today they come and there's no question. Everybody has a smartphone. Number one. Number two, they know how to use the smartphone. We don't have to even explain to them how it works, right? The digitalization of India has remarkably affected the fabric of the society. I go to vegetable market, even or a vegetable cart comes in front of my house. If I say, they said, sir, just pay me on Paytm, on Google Pay, or Phone Pay. No, they don't even take cash. There is a very good important reason. This is from your alma mater, right? IIT Bombay. They have done the whole fintech that we have built in India with the authentication, with Aadhaar. India didn't have social security numbers for nothing 10, 12, 15 years. Now we have the most advanced retina scan, verification system in India. In the entire whole fintech, in India, fintech was, driven by the central government, so it's free. A P2P commerce is free. So to make it, I can pay 30 rupees, which is nothing, right, compared to US dollar, to buy a vegetable. Now I can pay that through any of these, Google Pay, Paytm, or whatever, and it doesn't cost anything. Whereas in the US, the penetration of that is there. There is the Apple Pay is there, Google Pay is there. The penetration is very low. Actually, it's only 10, 12%. In India, it's almost heading close to 90, 80, 90%. People prefer to pay online, and whereas it wasn't the case 10, 12 years ago. Everything was cash business. Cash was a painful business in India. It's no longer cash. That's one thing. We couldn't have done DriveU the way we have done it because, when customer pays, online, our drivers get the money into their bank account the next day, and they know how to use it using their smartphone. So the entire whole transaction has become seamless. I mean, there are so many benefits of it. For example, Aadhaar authentication, what we call KYC, we do for our drivers. We check their background. We have API integration with third-party companies. Within hours, we get reports on the background of this driver. I didn't have that 6, 7 years, 8 years ago. I say without the India stack, it's called as India stack, fintech stack, we wouldn't be cash flow positive, profitable company at this scale today. I mean, we only have 135 employees in the company across India. We are on 10 major metros across India, 135 employees. If we didn't have this, we probably would have had a double or triple the number of employees. There would have been fraud, there would be wastage, there would be leakage, nothing. Okay, it is amazing what these has enabled a common man in India. I mean, a driver, for example, they are a blue collar worker. Typically they used to make, before DriveU, they used to make 10 to 15,000 rupees a month. At DriveU, they start at 25, 30,000. They go all the way up to 50, 60,000 rupees a month. Now we are actually going to give every driver health insurance. Nobody does that.
Are they your employees or are they independent consultants?
Independent consultants. Because of the scale we have 60,000 plus drivers across India today. Okay. So because of that, we can get insurance for our drivers at a very low cost, which we cover. We pay for.
You have the collective bargaining power.
Exactly. So we give health insurance. For example, if something happens to them, they can go to the hospital. Up to 2 lakhs is covered. I think we are trying to increase it to 3 to 5 lakhs. So that's a huge benefit for the driver, right? And to improve the health of the driver's family, every month, every city, we give top 5, top 10 drivers. We give, if the top 10 is depends on the quality of service they have done, how many trips they have done, and so on. We pay for their students' education. I mean, we pay them from our pocket to the student for these drivers. So we are doing multiple these things. So this is what gives me happiness, coming to India and doing these things. Using technology, I couldn't have done it without the technology, application of technology. I mean, GPS. I mean, I know a lot of it I have to thank America for providing the GPS system in India, right? Well, smartphones, of course, smartphones came from China for India. Most of the smartphones came from China, Android. Of course, now iOS is coming quite a bit. Apple is focused on Indian market and the costs are coming down. But primarily 5, 6 years ago, 80 to 90% of our smartphones were Android systems. And now, of course, iOS is coming on quite strong. So, I mean, there is a lot of technology we have leveraged to build this. I mean, that's what we have. We work on Amazon, AWS system. All our stuff runs on the, AWS. So we have access, everybody has access to this, and so on and so forth. So we're using the latest of the technology developed by Silicon Valley and America primarily, and the implementation by Chinese companies for building these kind of things into our product and into our solution.
So, Ram, something you mentioned, which was the role of government in reducing friction, reducing the cost of doing business, has been very helpful to your business. In the West, there's a strong belief that keep the government away or minimize intervention by the government. Whereas in China, you see a fairly totalitarian government, which pretty much does everything, and therefore free enterprise or people taking initiative becomes less. At what point do you see the role of the government becoming more interfering versus enabling entrepreneurship, innovation, or is it only in mature industries? What do you think?
You know, that's a very good question. I mean, I living in the West for for almost 40 years before I came back to India, maybe 30, right, 30 years at least. I was partially brainwashed at saying government is the problem, but government can be part of the solution if done correctly. India is doing that, I think. I believe India is doing that. In some ways, they're not, because there are a lot of public sector companies are there still. They're not doing well, right? And the public sector companies aren't necessarily doing well. I mean, but the private sector is coming in strong in India, and thanks to also a lot of foreign direct investment into India, right? They are doing a lot of that thing. They have allowed that to happen. And that is definitely helping the streamlining of certain things which government used to do before in India. My feeling is the infrastructure should be done by the government. I mean, Indian infrastructure, for example, the roads and the railroad systems and all that stuff is the typical infrastructure, the internet and the fintech stack that they built, authentication, and I talked about, to frictionless commerce. That has helped India actually what India is doing is now being emulated by 50 other countries now in this whole fintech stack. They are following India in an amazing way. What has happened in the US is because US has had the legacy system and legacy banks, they are very lethargic, okay? Because they already have control. I'll give you an example. In India, I can transfer money within seconds at no cost between accounts. In the US, for example, to transfer money from my account to my wife's account, it takes 3 business days. Why? I don't understand why it should take 3 business days to transfer a few $1,000s. I mean, I know, I'm talking about upper middle class and upper class, but even in the bottom strata of the society, what I see in what the Indian government does is it has regulations, certain regulations to help the poor. I'll give you one example, which I think it's an amazing. COVID hit everywhere, India, US, worldwide. What did US do? US did was they borrowed money and sent checks to everybody, whether they need it or not. They sent me a check for $1,400 to $2,800. It didn't mean much to me, but the money came to me. Okay, that's one thing. And then in the US, what we did to keep the jobs, we did what we call PPP or something, where we provided these small businesses to, as long as you keep employing these people, you'll get money. It's like a loan that's forgivable loan, right? There was a lot of fraud in the US. It's just crazy fraud. What did India do, right? What did India do? It took care of 800 million Indians on the lowest strata of the society. What did they do? What we call in India, roti kapda aur makan, right? They took care of food. I remember during COVID days how the entire government infrastructure was built so that the food was, made sure that babies got milk, everybody got, the lower end of the, and I didn't get it. I didn't ask for it. I didn't get it. The 800 million Indians got, they're fed for 2 years. There was no cash. There was no cash given to people. It was just to make sure you survive. I know it's a different thing in the West versus, but I believe there is a lot of wastage the government does in the US. Maybe it's the way it is, but the function is India has figured out, and by the way, even the transfer of money by the government, for example, your social security payments and stuff like that, because of the a great fintech stack we have here, it's instantaneous. You get the money right in your account. I mean, US does that too in Social Security and stuff like that. I'm not saying they don't do it. And there is a lot of stuff that was done, which I think is for a country of India's GDP and country is remarkable what India did during COVID. I was here. I mean, I was coming back in and out, and I was here. And I think there is things that the government can do. And India also did everything, right? Like, for example, they made sure everybody got free vaccine. I mean, in fact, India produces almost 50% of the world's vaccine was produced in India, in Pune. I think India has done a perfect job of getting the best of the fully authoritarian communist country and the freewheeling capitalist country of America. They blended it together. I believe that is something that I really appreciate because it helps the common man, the poor, because they don't have any voice. I mean, I think that is what I really appreciate about India.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving a balanced perspective. You've seen multiple economies and you've seen the challenges that each one poses. I'm going to switch to a different topic that you mentioned earlier, which I call the economics of scarcity versus the economics of abundance. Most companies, no matter where in the world, try to maximize their profits, but sometimes they end up hurting their own vendors and or their own customers. But it seems to work, and in the short term, every quarterly profits and profit P&L statement, they look good as long as they can minimize what they pay to their vendors and maximize to the customer. But there's a lot of grief in the process. You seem to have gone a different direction with what I call the economics of abundance, or what's in America called the benefits corporation or triple benefits corporation. How well is it working? And as you clearly pointed out, your own potential investors said, we don't like the idea that you are trying to make everybody happy and you're not maximizing return to shareholders. How has that worked out for you at a personal level, at a corporate level, and from an investor perspective?
I mean, at a personal level, I mean, actually, I'm immensely happy man, right? I feel very fortunate to be born in this country, which has given me so much to me, that gave me the platform to do what I do in the US and in the Silicon Valley and so on. So coming back to India, giving back to my country makes me feel so happy. I feel honored to be back and coming to my hometown, and then people embrace me saying, wow, you're coming back and doing this for me. And there's a rank and file people love it, what we do. By the way, from day one, I integrated the Silicon Valley culture. In our company, we have a cook. Anybody will get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, as long as they're there, they'll get their food. For you and me, at our level, it doesn't matter. But we have a lot of workers in our operations team. I mean, they don't make a whole lot of money, and they appreciate this. Now they will go get food, and they don't go outside to waste time in eating lunch, and they'll be more productive in the office. Number one. Number two, they interact with each other. Lots of good ideas come when they interact with each other during lunchtime. Then we went one step further for the drivers. We did the same thing. For drivers, I told you already earlier, we provide health insurance, we provide accidental coverage for them, all at the company cost. And of course, I could have cut corners and made a little bit extra profit by not paying all that stuff to our drivers. But actually, we figured out the benefit of that is, just like employees, our drivers don't leave our platform. They love our platform because we're giving all these benefits. When I see Uber and Ola, they're constantly struggling to get new drivers, and they are spending 5, 10, 15,000 rupees to get a new driver. By the way, our driver acquisition cost is ridiculously low. It's 10 rupees, which we give average 10 rupees because most of our 90% to 95% of our drivers come through referral. Okay, they refer each other. They refer. That's even better for us because then they are already been referred. The quality of drivers and everything is even better. for the corporation also, in the long run, we are actually more profitable. And we have proven that because we are not burning money, we are EBITDA positive, we are profitable. At employee level, same thing. We just had our 8th anniversary party last week. For a company of our size, people say in India, a lot of people had told me in India, people don't stay at their job, they keep changing jobs and so on. We had our company party, 27% of our employees have been in the company for more than 5 years. And the reason it's 27% is because we are hiring a lot of people lately. That's why it's otherwise, a lot of original people are still there in our company. There are some people who want to go, grass was greener on the other side. So they said, we'll go. I would tell them, you know what, go. If you don't like it, come back. There are employees who have come back twice. And I will welcome them. We'll say, there are employees who left. Within 3 weeks, they did a U-turn and came back to DriveU and said, oh my God, I know I was making 30-40% more salary. It's a terrible company. So I said, back, come on in. So what has happened is your cost of, employee acquisition, driver acquisition is in the long run is lower. So you're profitable, more profitable actually. But in the short run, yeah, we are paying a lot of, in these people, but then the loyalty is built. And just like in the US, every employee in the company have ESOP. They have shares in the equity in the company. We all do well. You're all, owners of the company. So we did all these things that was sort of strange 10 years ago in India. But of course, now it's getting there. But, where people are saying, oh, you're so generous on the other. I said, it doesn't matter. This is not where I'm giving back to my country and I want to do this. Of course, I want to make sure that we are a profitable company. We make money, because if we don't make money, we're not sustainable. But at the same time, we will give it back to the community. Another thing that, this is my passion and my son's passion. We rescue animals. In fact, I have 2 rescue indie dogs that I rescued. I brought them to US. They're beautiful dogs. And we have in our office, rescue dogs, street dogs are running around in our office, 3, 4, 5 in any given day. People are petting and we feed them. A lot of them are stay in the office. As a company, we donate for the rescue missions across India. In India, we are doing, because we are an Indian company, we do a lot of, somebody says we'll donate some money for rescue operations, whether it's rescuing cows or dogs or parrots or any animals. And so we are a big animal enthusiastic company. Although that kind of gives you, that's why you see I have a broad, wide smile. I love what I'm doing, but I'm not making a lot of money, but it's great. I love what I'm doing.
Overall, you find it beneficial in every possible way. Speaking of which,
Yes.
technology is changing so fast. There's concern with the job losses that may come about. As you know, a lot of the jobs in India have traditionally been support jobs, particularly in technology, whether it's QA jobs, it's customer support, legal assistance, and so on. With the advent of generative AI, machine learning, machine intelligence, there's a chance that a lot of these jobs will either reduce or go away. What do you think is the future of work in places like India?
It's a very, very hard problem to solve. If you don't adopt the generative AI, you will fall behind. At the end of the day, there is a period of time there will be a dislocation, but then things will settle down because there will be new different types of jobs coming in. 20 years ago in India, transcription services, call center was the biggest, service for a lot of college graduates, right? If you don't have an engineering degree or a medical degree, you pretty much do that in India. Those jobs actually have gone, especially from the big city like Bangalore or Mumbai or Hyderabad, the big cities. It's because the labor cost has gone up. Those jobs have now migrated to Philippines, English speaking, and a lot of the companies are actually Indian companies managing these employees in the Philippines. I'm giving you an example. These jobs are fungible; they move around. Just like right now, jobs from China, manufacturing jobs from China are coming to Vietnam and India right now. It's just every day we are seeing articles saying Apple is going to build the next iPhone 14 here in Bangalore or whatever. These kind of things are happening all the time. Foxconn is coming to India and so on. So the jobs move from country to country. We know that. I also think in the same way in the generative AI market, like you talked about, it is another level, a notch above where you become more efficient. So instead of having 100 marketing people to run an establishment, you may only need 10 or 20 because now these guys are more efficient, and that certainly is going to happen. What will happen to the other 80s? What you're asking me is that what will happen is we will have to definitely there's a short-term dislocation, but in the long run it'll all work out. For example, if you think about 90s and 2000s, India was primarily driven by software services, by Infosys, TCS, Wipro, and so on. These guys are making tons of money, taking code from developing code for American companies and so on. Now they are building the original stuff right in India. Now they have confidence, money, and the training to build their own. So in the long run, it'll always help India. You move up in the ladder in terms of but in the midterm there is a dislocation. It is certainly going to happen. We are tracking that. For example, in customer support, we can see ourselves saying, okay, we have 20 people in customer support. Do we need 20 people? We are looking at it. We are incorporating technology to maybe we will double our growth, double or triple, and still keep 20 people what we are doing as a company. So that's another tactic we are looking at. Every engineer in our office, we tell them, you have to use ChatGPT and all the other new technologies to write code, in the sense at least get the code basically done, so you become more efficient and effective. And that's also happening in our tech stack. I think very hard to say this. Autonomous cars, right? Autonomous cars is if you think about it, you don't need driver if it really works, right? You don't need driver; it'll drive for you, right, everywhere. But I always say, by the way, some VCs used to called me and said, "Hey, your company is going to be history with autonomous cars." I said, Have you been to India? Have you seen the roads? Have you seen the traffic? Autonomous cars will not run there, not version 1.0, 2.0, maybe 20.0 might work maybe in 20 years, okay? Not in it might work in the US, but not even in the US, they're having a hard time getting it to work. So technology has challenges. I think we'll have to adapt to it.
And speaking of technologies, you've always been on the cutting edge. I remember you working on some amazing things in the EDA industry, in the semiconductor industry. And I also noticed that you're still very active as an angel investor, Silicon Catalyst, all that, where you and I are part of the team. How do you decide which startup to invest in or which startup to get started? And is it primarily technology? Is it the people? Is it market? What makes you decide, and how do you grow the company?
I'm still a technologist at heart sometimes. So I kind of tend towards technology. Number one is I look at technology. I have invested in a crypto startup, okay, and in the crypto world. And I thought, it was interesting technology. And then I'm doing some in ed tech in the US also, in education, but that's not going anywhere. It's been hard to go get there. Primarily, I look at technology, how technology can benefit humans. That's where I look at. In the, people that definitely are important on top of that. You have to have the right people. So I first look at technology, then I say, okay, is it the right team? Or at least the leaders, the top 2 or 3 of them, is it the right set of people who they know what they know and they know what they don't know, because then they can only go get the right people to run the company. I look at it more of saying, are they wedded to their title or are they wedded to what they're doing? If they are wedded to titles, I don't invest. I'll say it's very difficult to change. Because what happens is, one thing you got to remember is that as you grow in a company, a startup, you have to accept that your roles may change. When today, for example, I gave up my CEO title to my son last year, the co-founder, because I said it's time for him to take on, and I look at more strategically what all things I can do for the company, and that's what I do. I mean, day-to-day stuff he's working on it. I'm still there. I'm still there on a daily basis in the office and so on. But I try to focus more on the longer term, what we should do for the company, where should we take it, what's the next thing to do beyond driver service. That's what we are looking at it. I like to see founders do that, because a lot of times, if you are focused on a technology-based company, this, the founding CEO is usually a technical guy or a gal, okay? But they're not necessarily a CEO when the company is $5 million revenue company versus $50 million. You have to find the other people. The reason why Google became amazingly successful is because the two founders realized, hey, let's find somebody who is here, an adult in this room, and they brought the right guy to steward the company. And the thing that a lot of founders don't see that, there'll be a lot of issues there.
You and your son have been involved in this company, seems to be from day one, and now he's taken over. As you know, in the US or in many other countries, they don't look at it kindly. Oh, or like my wife and I started a company, investors were worried. How do you see that? In India and in most parts of Asia, it's very common for family members to work together and even get investments either from the community or from investors at large. What's the role of the personal life and the professional life and the risk of interference and so on?
Yeah, when we started the company, it's a very good question. Investors definitely in the US will say, it's a family business or so on. Is this something that will they be emotionally tied to each other, and do they make the right decision? Let's say if two co-founders are not related to each other, then it becomes there are two entities. But when you have a father-son, like in our case, or husband-wife in your case, then the outsiders will say, oh, they are, they maybe they're in cahoots together doing things as opposed to coming with new ideas. What I always inculcated in my children, and I'm glad to see that, sometimes it's very hard to convince my son, honestly, because he won't agree, and he's a younger generation, and we have a lot of hot arguments on certain things. And I want it that way. It's a good idea that way. I don't want him to follow just because I say something, doesn't have to be just because, or just because he says something, I have to agree. So we have built that relationship between the two of us. When we have tough arguments a lot of times, but at the same time, I keep at work, there is no such thing as father-son. It's just two co-founders. Outside, we get together, that's fine. That's different. So I also want the other people in the company to see we are not always, they are always together. And I want to make sure that they understand we are independent thinkers, as two independent people, just happens to have the same last name, and that shouldn't matter, right? We have tried that. I mean, in fact, believe it or not, I have much harder time convincing my son on something new things than somebody else. Other than feeling good about it, that it's my own son who's doing this, it could have been anybody else who could be like but the difference is the benefits would be we are a different generation, clearly one generation away. I come from a generation where after being in the industry for 20, 30 plus years, I always look at the bottom line, okay? Whereas young guys say, we got to grow, that has helped us a lot because a lot of companies said growth at any cost. I never agreed to that. No, I said growth has to be slow but steady, not at any cost. If I am not making money and just growing, that means I really don't have a good value that the customers are valuing. It means there's something wrong with our product or our solution. Maybe, the only reason why they do it is because I'm discounting, I'm giving them, that doesn't make sense. I mean, if we are providing a great service, we should be paid for what we are offering, and our drivers should be paid enough, and we should have the enough cut. And that is something that it comes over the years, and the mantra was growth and editing cost has come crashing down right now in the industry, and a lot of companies are dying left and right in the US and in India, actually, because the funding spigot has been turned off. We were in a position where we positioned to be profitable, and we are profitable. So that's a huge benefit we have. So between the two of us, we had a healthy. If I was only focused on it would have been because he was pushing me on one side, I would relent a little bit, but I was pushing on the other side, he would relent a little bit. So it was a good middle path we took as a company. We grew nicely, okay, but we grew sustainably.
I know you've been a mentor to many people, both to people entering the career or in mid-career, as well as to entrepreneurs. What advice do you have, given the rate at which things are changing, either to entrepreneurs or to people in transition or starting their careers?
One simple thing I say is never stop learning. Okay. I mean, by the way, this is my first startup I co-founded in India in the consumer space. Okay. I had never done a consumer startup before myself. All the startups I did in the US was the enterprise providing, and this was a big change for me. And guess what? I learned a ton of it, Shankar. In my 50s, just amazing amount of stuff I learned. It's just valuable. I feel the learnings I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, right? I can go toe to toe with any consumer facing company now because I learned a lot. Okay, I learned through and I learned from my son. I was open to understand. Okay, tell me how you do this. Okay, show me how you do this. Be humble. Second thing I say is be humble. Be open to ideas, and don't say I know this worked last time. It may not always work all the time. Okay, never stop learning. Be humble. And I know this is something that my mom always taught me. Even now, she tells me, she'll say, Ram, never think that you did this. You are. It's God has. My mom is a deeply spiritual woman, and she says God works in different ways. God is working through you to help back your countrymen where you were born, and don't ever think that you are doing it. And that brings humbleness to me. I said, okay, I agree. Whether you believe in God or not, but it's just that it's something that she says is that because the reason what she's saying is you might have the best intention, you might have the best thing, but the results may be bad, may not happen because you're not at the right time. I have failed. I have failed many times. Okay. In many ideas, I have failed. I thought it was the greatest idea. Okay. But not because of lack of execution, because I have good learnings, but it's because of not the right time, and I just wasn't able to garner enough interest and with a customer base or investor base or whatever. So there's an element of luck, you know, and don't think that you doing everything. I mean, we can have long conversation about Elon Musk and his luck, but some other day, okay. But I'm just saying what I'm saying is it's not one person's. He's a genius in doing this. You are just at the right time at the right place, okay. And I'm not putting down anybody who has done amazing work in the valley or here, but I'm just saying, just be humble, okay? It will take you a long way, and you'll be grounded. You will be grounded.
Well, thank you for all these suggestions. And you brought up something very interesting, which is the role of failure in one's career. What have you learned from your numerous failures, and how has it helped you to grow both professionally and as an individual?
Oh, failure is the best uh, reason to grow, right? You can take your failures and and not to beat yourself to death and saying, I screwed up and everything. You say, what can I do better next time? What did I do wrong? And you go through that whole process, understanding, and then you can say, maybe I didn't do enough market research. Maybe my product, I brought it out too soon into the market, or I was too late, or I was not fast enough. The competitive challenges were there. We should have jumped and done something. Or, there are so many things you could go back and look at it and say, Intel has this mantra, right? Only the paranoid survive. I mean, it's kind of a negative way of putting it, but when he says only the paranoid survive means you always have to feel that, oh, okay, it was great. Tap yourself for the back for yesterday, but okay, today is another next day. Okay, you did a good job yesterday, fine. But what are you going to do today to help your company succeed? Always be on the cutting edge. And over a period of time, it's not being paranoid, it's more of being clinically analyzing your weakness. We have learned you and I learned about SWOT analysis, but you do SWOT analysis every day, right? You look at your strength, you look at your weakness, you look at your opportunity, look at your threats, okay? And never underestimate your competition. They are as smart as you are. They're as wily as you are. Don't ever think, this is today. Every day is a new day. Go and wake up in the morning and say, I did good yesterday, but what am I doing today? Don't, again, this is part of the whole, keep yourself focused and grounded. That's what I always tell founders. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, Ram, I know you contributed tremendously over the last 8 years to your motherland. And do you miss working in Silicon Valley?
I don't miss it. I don't miss it. I love it. I love it here. In Bangalore, where I am, is the Silicon Valley of India. The amount of excitement of people coming together, the way I used to come together in Silicon Valley in the 90s. I mean, of course, maybe it's my age at that time or whatever. It's very exciting. I would meet somebody in a restaurant and say, oh my God, you're starting this company. You're starting doing this. That's happening. Our company is think of it as in Palo Alto is where you have all the startups going there, Mountain View, Palo Alto. Our office is in a township called Koramangala within Bangalore, which is the heart of Silicon Valley of India. Every street has 2 or 3 startups. I go out for lunch, somebody will come and talk to me, and I can hear somebody saying that I have the vibes of Silicon Valley here in India, in the country I was, in the city I was born. Do I miss Silicon Valley? Honestly, I don't. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I always worried about that. I said, oh my God, I'm leaving a place where I lived for the longest time in my life, and I'm moving away to India, back to India to see these things. Will I ever, will I regret in the long term? I've lived for 25 years in Silicon Valley. I said, what is this? Or am I doing? I don't. I'll come back one day, but at this point, I'm here.
Well, Ram, it's been a joy talking to you and learning from you, sharing with you also.
Thank you.
In our case, we came back to the US and now we do cross-border entrepreneurship as well as cross-border charities. There's so much to do, so much we all can learn from each other.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I know that you're also in both countries now, and I hope you get many, many opportunities to serve in different ways. And it's exciting. And to everybody listening out there, yes, I'm looking for people from around the world to talk to us. Silicon Valley in the US has done fantastic, and so has the United States. But I don't want to be under the impression that this is only the place where there's action. There's action everywhere from India, China, Japan to the remote areas of Africa, Colombia, South Africa. So I want to hear your stories. I want to learn from you. We want to learn from each other. So please come forward. And thanks again, Ram. It's always a joy to listen to you. And I've been one of your stealth mentees, if you will, over the years.
Thank you. Thank you, Shankar. I always admired for all the stuff you have done too. So we are in a mutual admiration society here. Yeah.
Thanks.